Hi everyone, tutorial 3 on linear perspective. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to draw a diagram based on one vanishing point, similar to what we did in class. So you want to start with the horizon line. Feel free to use a ruler to do this. And then we are going to place our vanishing point in the center. This is for simplicity's sake. It could go to the left or the right, but we are going to imagine that we are looking straight ahead at the object that we are examining. And that object we are going to imagine is just going to be a box, a rectangular box. Okay, this is the simplest case. This box is straight in front of us, so we only see one face, and that face is directly towards us. So in this case, linear perspective is somewhat irrelevant. We see no orthogonal lines or no converging lines. However, if we move the box above our eye line, and let me just write down that this is the eye line, and this is the vanishing point. I'll just put VP here. When we move the box above our eye line, we can now see the bottom of that box. In that bottom of the box, the lines that make up the edges of the bottom of the box are going to appear to converge to this vanishing point. I'm just arbitrarily deciding how big my imaginary box is. The same thing would happen if we move below our vanishing point. Same rectangle. And now we imagine, now we would see two sides. So we bring these lines that converge to our vanishing point. And again, I'm just going to create an arbitrary distance from here to here to create my box. Moving the box from the center to the right, we also see two sides. So here's the front of the box. It's facing, still facing straight at us. We imagine these lines going towards the vanishing point. And so now I have my two faces of the box that I can see. And then the same thing to the left. We have a box, a rectangle. Once we move away from the horizontal or the vertical, so once we move both in one direction to the right or left and above or below, we start to see three sides of the box. Again, this is still our one vanishing point example, so we are still only, we still see the full front of the box. This is facing directly at us, so the box is not tilted to the left or the right at all, but it is above our line of vision and to the right of us. And here we can draw the orthogonal lines from the corners of the box to the vanishing point to see our box. Okay, so unlike these cases, this case where we only see one side, these cases where we see two sides, now we see three sides of the box. And I'm just going to proceed and do the same thing on the upper left, lower right, so we can practice a little bit. And you can use a ruler to do this. Make sure to keep all of your lines that do not go to the vanishing point as either horizontal or vertical lines. Moving up here. I guess my box has changed dimensions. It's now more of a cube. one more. Okay, the next thing I'm going to show you is a transition between this diagram and the next diagram, where we're going to focus on using two vanishing points. So what we're going to do is we're going to imagine this box being turned to the left. So now this face is no longer directly facing us. I'm just going to use this green so we can see the difference. So now, in addition to having this vanishing point to the right, we will also have a vanishing point that's somewhere out on the left. Okay, so this is showing the difference between using that one vanishing point when something is facing directly at you versus using the two vanishing points. Happens when you see the edge of a box. Alright, we have a fresh sheet of paper, and we are going to now work with two vanishing points. Again, this is a diagram, so these are arbitrary. I mentioned this to some of you in class, but when you actually work from life, it's quite difficult to measure where your vanishing points would be. If you have two vanishing points, there is a way to do so. If you look in a technical drawing book, there's a procedure where you can measure the angle of what you're looking at and your distance from it. But what we're going to do in this class is we're going to do a combination of using the linear perspective system with our observations. So you're going to use your observational skills for Project 2 to help you find those 2 points, and then you're going to use those 2 points to then help make your drawing more correct. Okay, so here we have our 2 points, and then I'm going to start also in the center, but instead of with the full face of this box, this imaginary box, I'm going to start with the edge. And then I'm going to extend the top and bottom of this edge to my vanishing point. Okay, so the simplest case with 2 vanishing points. Before I move to the next one, let me just label that we have our horizon line here, also called our eye line. And I'm going to call this the right vanishing point, and this one the left vanishing point. Okay, as we move from the center over to the right, what we should see is that the edge of this same rectangular prism, this plane should converge more rapidly towards this point and then more slowly all the way over to that other point. So we're getting fairly close to that 1 point example where we see a lot of this face. Okay, if we move below this center example, this is a little bit tricky. It may take 1 or 2 times to practice doing this, but we want to go from the top and the bottom of this edge to our vanishing point on the right, and then the vanishing point on the left. Okay, and then we just need to give ourselves our width. So obviously if we're working from life, we would be measuring what the distance is here. And then what we're going to do next is we're going to go from this point and this point over to our respective vanishing points. So I'm going to take from this point to the vanishing point. Okay, and this is the key part because it's quite obvious, I think, that these planes converge out to these vanishing points. However, it's a little less intuitive and I think a lot harder to see when you're drawing from life, that the top of a box will also have that same behavior, even if it's somewhat more slight compared to the bottom. So here we have a tilting edge here and an angled edge here. So just like with the first diagram, I'm going to move around the paper and continue this process. I'll make these all about the same size. Okay, moving to the lower left. Make sure to keep all of these lines vertical. This one I didn't make quite vertical. All right. Oh, whoops, I forgot one, so I'll add one more just to finish it. This is our other example where it's on our eye line. There we go. Okay, that's a little better. Once you finish the two diagrams, I want you to then work from life and set up a situation where you have an object that is in two-point perspective. So where we see something where there is an edge facing us. And it can be at any angle towards us. If it's more like this, that means that the left-hand vanishing point is going to be farther away, and the right-hand vanishing point is going to be closer. If it's at a 45-degree angle to you, then the vanishing points should be equidistant from the center of the page. if the object is drawn in the center of the page. And then if it's like this, you should have the left-hand vanishing point that's going to be pretty close, and then the right-hand vanishing point is going to be further away on the page. I will upload an example of what I'm looking for below. I'd like you also to do those diagrams in your sketchbook. Remember, I want you to just keep a record of the tutorials, and also include those other drawings that I listed on that sketchbook handout for the end of the semester. But what I want you to do by the end of the day today is just upload an image of the box that, or whatever you're drawing, a box-like thing. It could also be a piece of furniture. And yeah, I'll just show you exactly what I'm looking for. Optimally, you would have very clear perspective lines and then also a drawing, a contour drawing on top of that. Alright, I was just going to upload an image of what I wanted you to do, but I thought it would be helpful if I talked about it a little bit. I also write some instructions down. So you can see that this box is below my eye line. It took me a couple tries to figure out how low to make this, and I did some measuring to try and figure out what these angles should be and about how many box heights below an imaginary horizon line this box should go. And I ended up figuring out that it's located here, and I used a green colored pencil. Use a colored pencil or a blue pen or something you have that is a different tone. And I drew those perspective lines, and then I went back on top of it with graphite pencil to get some of the details and some of the contours.